Hi there, Drutter here. It's April 1st, 2020, and today's day 17 of my coronavirus quarantine lockdown diary. And I'm here in southern British Columbia, just inland from the coast, a few hours drive from Vancouver, and in a smaller town, and just bring in my report on what's going sort of around here and some interesting things I'm seeing in headlines and stuff on this topic around the world. And just on the screen today, I'm going to put up some statistics and some graphs. Unfortunately, it's not a very nice topic. These are people's lives we're talking about. These are, well, people's deaths we're talking about. And this is not just numbers on a screen. Really, each of these has been confirmed in various locations around the world, and family members and so on and so forth involved, and doctors and lab work involved in making all these cases all tabulated. So this is not just somebody pulling numbers out of thin air. And I'll, of course, put links down to the sources down below. And as we know, all numbers are suspect everywhere. So that doesn't mean that we can just disregard every number everywhere. It just means you have to keep that in mind, that there is some level of inaccuracy probably, or bias, or so on and so forth. You have to consider the sources. So I will put those links down below. But in general, these are accepted worldwide sources, or accepted worldwide data figures from around the world. So I'll put them up on the screen while I'm talking about other stuff. It may not match exactly what I'm talking about, but for the most part, yeah, I'm putting up some graphs about deaths over time, and we'll put some logarithmic version of that as well. And then we'll put maybe some projections, just if things continue the way they are. Of course, we don't know that things will continue the way they are. Hopefully, we're going to be able to reduce the rate of deaths. But if they do continue at the rate they are, then we can see how long it will take to reach certain milestones. Anyhow, now there are currently 47,000 dead, I'm afraid to report. That's more than 1,000 per day now, new being added to that total from the USA and also from Spain, 1,000 from each of those two countries now per day. And Italy is now backing down from their 1,000 per day peak. And Canada has 114 now confirmed dead. BC here, 25, including in my area. And there are 142 now hospitalized. And I looked into some numbers about beds, and there are plenty of beds still in BC available. That is true. And they admit that. They say we are ready for the exponential numbers that are coming. And so except in the hardest hit areas, there's a little bit of strain on that area. And I think that's in Vancouver mostly. But there is, around BC, it is appearing everywhere. It is in every part of the province, and there are people sick in every part of the province, and in ICUs everywhere, and on ventilators in every corner of this province now. So 142 hanging on for dear life. Good luck to them and their families. And now I wanted to mention some effects that this is having, this lockdown, not just the virus itself. That's one thing, but there is, of course, this lockdown. And that's another part of my diary here. My vlog is talking about the lockdown and the effects that it's having on me and on what I think of it's having on society. And one thing I've noticed is that it's essentially an effective cashless economy now with all these rules. There is still a way to sometimes pay in cash, to retrieve cash from banks and to pay with cash, but it's all of a sudden it's become, it's dropped from, say, 10-15% of the economy to 1-2% of the economy maybe now. And it's just real holdouts like myself and a few other people that are really hanging on to cash. Because I believe, I don't believe in fiat currency necessarily, but if we are going to have to be forced to use fiat currency in an area, which we are in Canada and most countries, at least for some things we're forced to use them, then we should have the option of having a private version, a physical version. And it used to be that hard cash was cold and hard, but it ain't cold and hard anymore. It's flimsy and prone to getting viruses on it, which silver coins are not. But we don't have silver coins as currency anymore. We have fiat plasticky debt notes now that conveniently carry viruses, and they can say we have to get rid of them. So it's an effective cashless economy now. They haven't announced that, but we've reached a cashless society now here in 2020 for the first time ever in history. And there's also an effective ban on human contact outside your own your own marriage or your own family members that you live with. You're not even allowed, not here anyway, not allowed to have any contact with any other humans. So you can't even date. Like if you're, say, falling in love with someone currently right now, you wouldn't be able to physically consummate your relationship right now. Not at least according to the government. I'm sure people are still doing so, right? But this ban on, well, they don't call it a ban on socialization, but that's what it is. It's a ban on socialization. They call it a enforcement of social distancing. But isn't that a double negative? Enforcing social distancing? That could just be said as a ban on socialization. You're not allowed to touch, you're not allowed to be together, you're not allowed to breathe on each other. That's what it is, right? And maybe there is a medical reason for that, but isn't that creepy that the government's mandating people can't touch each other and can't breathe on each other, kiss, can't, aren't people going to start to miss that stuff? I think they might. Isn't that part of human nature? How do you mandate that suddenly? How do you snap your fingers and make everybody not want to touch, not want to be together even, not want to be within 2 meters of each other? It's scary. That's a different thing that we've never done before, and it's a sudden experiment. And if you take people and you put them suddenly, you take, say, 100 people and put them in prison, a certain percentage of those people don't make it. They cannot handle that. They can't handle the restrictions of prison. Just regular prison, just a regular jail, just minimum security, put them behind bars. Some people physically or emotionally cannot handle that. Either immediately or over time, it kills them. So that will happen to some people here, I think. People will die from this. And that's harsh. That's harsh. That has to be considered as part of the calculations here. I don't know if that is being considered, the damage that it does on people. And restricting human nature, eventually that will have an effect. Like they say, holding a beach ball underwater, right? Pushing it further and further down. That's only delaying the inevitable, which is that it's going to come flying out. And the further down you push, the further up it's going to come shooting out when it finally does. And that's kind of what's going to happen here. And it's sort of, I feel, already happening. Some people are getting stir crazy. It ain't me, but I can imagine how some people feel if they've had basically the carpet yanked out from under their feet here. And this is, like I said, if you put 100 people in prison, a certain number of those won't make it immediately or soon, will be dead. And of those that survive, if you put, a certain percentage, if you put those people into isolation, right? That's the cruelest thing you can do in prison, is put people in isolation. Anyone consider that? There's a certain number of people that go into the isolation that don't make it there either. They die there. That's a further restriction of freedoms and just crushing someone's spirit, their soul, right? No say in whether you eat or you don't eat, or when you eat, or when you can go to the bathroom, or where. It's all decided for you. And when that freedom is pulled out and you've lost your freedom suddenly, maybe it never was there. Maybe some people they thought they were completely free all this time, I don't know. But people are realizing suddenly, holy shit, this is major restriction on my freedom. And it goes beyond that. It goes deeper. These people that are engineering all this have major plans for all this. This is all by design, I believe, and we can get into that in another video, because people don't like that topic very much, but I believe it's not just people in power taking advantage of this crisis. They caused the crisis so that they could take advantage of the crisis. And yes, we do have to shelter in place right now, because it is about to slam into most of our worlds right now, if it hasn't already started. But that's by design, right? It's not that we can call it a fake, a hoax. It's real, it's happening. But yeah, maybe this has been done to us. And I guess eventually we will find out. But the amount of harm this is doing is just shameful. It's just terrible. And another thing that it is effectively doing is a curfew. They don't call it a curfew, but there's an effective curfew. There's 2 rules in place. 1, you can't go anywhere except for shopping, except for like around your block, back to your house with your dog or whatever, if you have one, or if you're on like a quick, brisk stroll. I don't know if they're enforcing this, but this is what they say you can and can't do. 1, you can't go anywhere, basically, except for the grocery store and back to shop. And 2, grocery store hours have changed. So now they're about 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or maybe 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So there's about 12 hours there that you're allowed out of your house, right? Because you're only allowed to the store when it's open. You can't go when it's closed and hang out there. So there's an effective curfew of 12 hours and 24 hours now, here at least in BC, where we can't be off our properties. And some people don't have a property. They're in a little cage, basically, in their apartment buildings. And I'm really feeling for those people who are probably sitting on their balcony trying to breathe fresh air and look out and see sky and wish that they had some ground under their feet probably right now. So I feel blessed that I have a house that I'm renting. And that's a good thing. Months of isolation, they're saying now. Months. They first said, days, then they said weeks. Now they're saying months. It's like one of those sign-up pages, like, sign up for our website. All you need is an email address. Just tell us your email address. It's like, okay. Oh, step 2. Now you get to confirm your email address. Just make sure that's really you. Okay, and then you're on. Wait, no, step 3. Before you can finalize your account, tell us your phone number. We're just going to give you a quick call, make sure that's really you. It's an automated thing, don't worry. It's like, it's the bait and switch all over again, right? Just go into isolation, it'll be fine. And then once you're in there, it's easy to control because most people are going to stay in. A few people here and there are going to go, you know what, I'm done with this and I'm out of here. And those people can be nailed back down like a nail that pops up, right? And the nail that pops up is going to get hammered back down. And so now that everyone's in isolation, it's going to be relatively easy to keep it that way. And if not, in certain pockets, well, then I guess they'll have to make it that way. They've already said it's going to be done by force if you don't do it yourself. So this is scary times for me, I think for a lot of people. A lot of people maybe saw something like this coming, but not exactly this. This is, I don't know where they came up with this exact plan. Maybe a simulation, maybe AI helped design this, I'm not sure. It seems a little tricky, the way it's been executed, but hey, I'm sure they had a lot of minds on it, a lot of people working on making it pretty much just perfect, and I think it's going according to plan right now, which is scary too. And I kind of wonder what's next, what's going on, what's going to happen when we're in here, when we're not inside necessarily, but when we're sort of controlled. It's not just necessarily about breaking us of our cash habit, about breaking us of our work and our, free markets and all those things that they wanted to get rid of for a long time. It's not just about that. I think there might be something else coming soon, which really sucks too. But I didn't really want this to be a doomy video. That's just how I see it, I guess. I feel usually it's best to be aware of maybe the options of what might be coming and possibilities and things, and then I can possibly be prepared, because I've done that for a long time and it's served me well. I mean, I've gotten to this point. I am fairly prepared, at least emotionally, for this, and better than some people, I think, and same with Medicaid, and we're doing well raising a little baby during what looks to be like the coming next depression, and we're hanging in there. But like I said, that's too long. That's not going to work. I don't think any other people are going to take it. I can do that. I could do a year. I could do longer, but I don't want to. I don't like that. I don't like the feeling that I'm forced to. I don't like the feeling that I'm being made to stay where I am. That's not okay. I'm willing to do it myself. I'm willing to do that right now for maybe a couple weeks or whatever, but I will be reassessing how I feel about it as I go, and I'll probably put that here in the vlog as I go. What we need is an antibody test, and it's available, like I said yesterday. It's available, yay, in the UK, and not necessarily to the public, but it's coming to the public. It will be, on the free market. There's going to be a free market for this thing. As long as it's effective at testing for these, this exact COVID-19, not all coronaviruses. That doesn't make sense. Why would you test for that? You'd get positives every time you tested someone, because everyone's had a coronavirus at some point. That's the colds, right? It's colds. So, and other things that are coronaviruses. So if you're just testing for all coronaviruses, that's ridiculous. Some people are saying, oh, that's what the tests are, so they're useless. It's garbage. It's like, what? That's illogical. It shows you don't understand science or logic at all. You haven't even looked at what's going on. You're just making things up and posting it. That's embarrassing. We need an antibody test, and like I said, it needs to be for this specific virus. antibody. And anyone who's creating one that's not is ridiculous. No one's going to buy it. The only ones that are going to be bought are the ones that are going to be useful, which is testing for this specific thing. And I'm pretty sure that's what all the different companies and labs that are producing it are doing. And we'll soon know, I guess, if we don't already. And once we have that antibody test, like I said yesterday, it makes you like a queen on the chessboard. You can go backwards. You can come out of quarantine. You can go to any square. You can go wherever you want, at least in my opinion, because that means that you are unable to get it anymore, because you've had it before, and it means you aren't able to give it to anyone anymore. You're not shedding viruses. You could be carrying items that have viruses on them, and of course everyone can be, but it makes you a really good, basically it makes you able to travel anywhere you want, and you're not going to be infecting people. You can go and visit people as long as you don't, like I said, bring infected stuff with you. And so those people are going to be really valuable, and I hope to be one of those people, because I think maybe I've already had it, and now I feel pretty good myself. I feel pretty physically. I would like a bit more sleep, but I'm on the mend, I think, from whatever I had. It seemed to be some kind of viral pneumonia, sure. All pneumonia means is an infection in your chest, so yeah, I did have a cold. It went down to my chest, and it seemed to be viral, because what coughed out was clear, and that's consistent with what happened to a lot of people that have had this virus. So, and I've never been sick for a long time. I don't really get sick. The last time I got sick was years ago. And before that, it was years ago before that when I was working as a nurse, and they forced me to get a flu shot, and I got the flu. But that was the last couple of times that I've really been sick. It was just, a few times here and there in the last 10, 20 years. So this has been interesting for me, and I do feel like I'm pretty much over it. I think the baby is over it, or will be soon. He's had some wheezing, especially when he wakes up from being lying down the last little while, but we're keeping him sitting up, playing with him, giving him fluids, and just keeping him happy and healthy as possible, and it seems to be working. He's not as wheezy anymore. Me a little bit, and I'm coughing up, not coughing like a cough, like but feeling something, in my chest sometimes, and it's almost gone. I believe I'm probably on the mend, so that's good. And one more thing to mention before I go, just today, China admitted that the pandemic continues there. They're not pretending anymore that they've cured it, which would be ridiculous, because the numbers that they're putting out show supposedly that they are the least infected country and the least affected country in the world. Even though it supposedly started there, they're claiming that they have the lowest death rate, the lowest infected rate, all this kind of stuff. And their media is, of course, quite controlled. And now we're finding out, okay, that was not true. And so the numbers were faked and still are not right. We don't really know what's going on in China, or really anywhere. We have to take that into consideration. So we have to look at what's actually going on in the world and what's happening to people. And that is essentially really what I wanted to talk about. We just need that antibody test. That's the thing now. We need to get that antibody test, and there's multiples of them. Like I said, there's different ways of testing these antibodies, but as long as they work, and we don't have to worry about if they're safe or not. It's just a poke on your finger, and then you put the blood droplet on the machine or whatever, and then it tells you the answer, kind of like a little bit like a pregnancy test with pee, or kind of like a diabetes test for blood sugar levels. Fairly simple, and we don't have to worry about if it's safe. It is safe to do. There's nothing going into the person, so it's not like a vaccine. It's just a test to find out if they have had the virus, and if that is the case, if that's positive, yay, that's the positive you want. You want that one, because it tells you that you are now immune, you can never get it again, and therefore you're never going to be able to be contagious. You're not going to be coughing and breathing out particles onto people. That can't happen anymore. So we need that antibody test to figure out who has had it. So I think it's been a lot more people than we know. A lot more people have had it and have asymptomatic, or they have had it and they thought it was just a bit of a cold. Because for a lot of people, like my wife, for example, that's what it was, just a week of, right? Just a very minor respiratory infection that they get, and their body gets over right away, and they got the antibodies for it, and they're done. So now we need that test to get that confirmed. And then certain people at least, can start to be put back to work, or can get out of quarantine and get to the grocery store without so much risk, and so on and so forth. All right, that's the good news anyway, and I think that's coming soon. Sorry about the bad news on the screen, but that is what is happening, what appears to be happening anyway. So I'm running with what appears to be happening, the numbers we have. If they're not quite right, we will find out eventually. And I believe that these trends, at least what we're seeing, this is true. This is really happening. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay healthy, and talk to you tomorrow.